Guyana. When the Ministry of Culture keep the big shows, one set of girls and banner. Cause I done fed up, you done fed up, he done fed up, she done fed up, we done fed up, the people fed up. They hiding corruption inside the cup, look how evil set up. The people fed up. Every picture you take and promise you make, everything you do is about clouds. Then you come into me for I shake your hand, there's nothing to smile about. Corruption inside every sector, but when it comes to them they send you. Try investigate efficiency, right? Go talk to Baratans too, cause I done fed up, you done fed up, he done fed up, she done fed up, we done fed up, the people fed up. You're hiding corruption inside the cup, look how evil set up.
There and fabricate that. Unless you say who the person is, I can't comment on anonymous people.
Okay, well, let's talk about specific individuals. What is your relationship with Mr. Su Jurong?
Su? Oh, Su? My relationship? Nothing. He's a tenant in my place.
A pleasant good evening, everyone. Welcome to Over to You. My name is Wayne Caesar, and of course, I am your host this evening. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope that everyone is having a pleasant Saturday thus far. It's a nice, pleasant, coolish Saturday here in the Northeast region of the United States of America. I know it's 8 to 8 p.m. right now in Guyana. I want to welcome all Guyanese on the ground tuning in to tonight's program. Welcome, welcome. Over to you. A program for the people, by the people. I am going to allow you guys the latitude of around 2 minutes to go ahead and share the link of your program and like your program. In the meantime, I am going to do today's roll call as usual. Yvonne Rodriguez, a pleasant good evening to you. Beatrice Selby, good evening. Welcome to the program. Aileen Norton, a pleasant good evening to you. Welcome to the program. Marcus Paul, welcome to the program. Sharon Griffith, welcome to the program. Miss Vashti McNaught, welcome to Over to You. Miss Desiree Smart Felix, by way of Canada, my first Canadian in the house, welcome to the program. Miss Sandra Hanover, welcome to the program. Miss Mary Figueroa, by way of Canada, welcome to the program. Yolanda, welcome to Over to You. Pam Halls, a pleasant good evening to you and welcome to the program. Lance Young, good evening, welcome to the program. Notley Harry, welcome to the program. Miss Brenda Braithwaite, how are you doing this evening? I hope that you're having a pleasant good evening so far. Welcome to the program. Althea Jones, welcome. Matthew Dennison, Harlem in the house. Harlem, New York is in the house. Welcome to the program. The Honorable Victor Ben, another Canadian. Welcome to the program. Beverly Ann Romaine, good to see you also and good night to you. Mayborn King, welcome. Nav Joe, good to see you. Miss Deslyn Wilson, yes, Des is in the house. I see you, Miss Wilson. Princess Tasha, good evening. Good evening, Princess Tasha. Mavis Davis Wells, a pleasant good evening to you. Welcome to the program. Miss Denise Booker. Miss Charlene A. Moses, the Honorable Charlene A. Moses, welcome to the program. It's good to see you, Charlene. I look forward to your input this evening, so I hope you have a long list with you tonight. Beverly Ann Romaine, same thing. Welcome to the program. Love your input. Patricia Sana, welcome. Marna Saul, welcome to the program. Audrey Brown, good to see you. Donna E. Fort, welcome to the program. Desiree Richardson, a pleasant good evening. Good to see you. Kenneth DeFlormont, good to see you, sir. Lawrence J. James, welcome to the program. Susan Matthews Rodriguez, welcome. Claire Capel, welcome, welcome, welcome everyone. Linda Dainty, welcome to the program. Great. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure having, all of you here with me this evening. We're going to have some pertinent discussions. We're going to discuss, of course, pertinent issues relating to the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, our nation. We are all tied to Guyana in some way or some form, whether we were birthed on Guyanese soil or whether we were birthed in the diaspora to Guyanese parents, right? But we all have a link somehow or the other to the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, a nation that is now touted one of the world's fastest growing economies. So we all know, just based on that Guyana is very, very important on the quote-unquote world economic market. All right, we're going to kick off our program this evening discussing let's see where we can start. Okay, let's head up the East Coast there to the Arthur Chong Convention Center, right, where our parliament seems to be permanently held these days. I didn't hear, I don't know if any of you heard of any announcement from the government or anyone indicating that parliament is going to be held at the Arthur Chong Center until further notice. But I must say this, we have a landmark parliament building there located on Hatfield Street there in the teeth of Georgetown, right? And I am of the belief that parliament should be held there. That building holds a lot of tradition, holds a lot of history, okay? And, if there is some rehabilitation that needed to be done to the building, we are, quote unquote, the world's fastest growing economy. So therefore, we should have the necessary resources and funds to upgrade the building. But I do believe that the parliament should be held there in the teeth of Georgetown. And, on special occasions at the Arthur Chong Convention Center, in case you have, you're expecting a larger than normal audience. All right. No announcement. Thank you, Miss Susan Matthews Rodriguez. She said there were no announcement. That doesn't surprise me one bit, because when can we recall that the PPP has been compliant? This is a non-compliant government. We all recognize this. But look, this 5-year cycle is not going to be like the last one. I can promise you guys that. We are not going to continue to sit in the posture that we did the last time around. Okay? Brick has got to grind against brick here. All right? All right. Well, the 13th Parliament would have commenced on Monday, I think somewhere around between 1 and 2. I think it was 2 p.m. Okay? And it was quite the spectacle that, many of the experts believed that it would have been. All right. I saw some things there that was concerning, that catch my eyes. Look, this is not for me to be critical of anyone. I am not picking on any individuals. I want to make that clear. I am just basically giving my assessment of what I have seen. And let me start off here with the quote-unquote leader of the Win Party. All right? You have to understand, Mr. Azruddin Mohammed, when you're going into parliament, right, you are not going into parliament to represent rich folks. You are going into parliament to represent the poor and desolate. Hence, there is no need to drive into parliament with a Lamborghini and rev it up. You're talking about 53% of Guyanese living below the poverty line. Okay? No need to take that position, sir. And I'm very, very disappointed, because there are 3 members of parliament that sits on the Win's list of parliamentarians who have previous experience being in Parliament, and I am surprised that they would not have guided you correctly. Okay, that should not have been your first approach. Your approach should have been a very conservative approach. I do not too many times agree with Bara Jagdeo, but I have to agree with him saying that, you know, you're out there flaunting your wealth. And look, you're representing the poor. You don't need to be flaunting your wealth, because it's obvious, okay, that the people that you're representing from a financial position, they do not align within your standing in society. Okay? You are probably, what, a billionaire in Guyana? One of Guyana's, I'm sure at this point, many billionaires, they have to have a few. Okay? They must have a few of you in there with what has been going on. Right? And we know that you guys have earned these billions on under questionable circumstances. There's no billionaire that is sitting in Guyana that I can sit down or can come to me and say they legitimately earn their billions straight up. Everybody's involved in something. Okay? Corruption runs so deep in Guyana. All right? So deep that if we even decide to, you know, get in there and eradicate corruption 100%, I tell you this, the parliament would be, they wouldn't even have a parliament. I don't know how they will hold parliament, because so many people will be in handcuffs. But anyhow, let's get back to the 13th parliament. The MPs were sworn in, okay, from both sides. At that sitting, more than that should have occurred. Right? A leader of the opposition should have been named. Okay? A leader of the opposition should have been named in that sitting. This is where we get governance started for this cycle. All right? You don't wait until another sitting for the leader of the opposition to be named. But I believe that this was done in spite, this was spitefully done by the PPPC. Okay, it was spitefully done. Look, I'm not here to put a feather, like I said, I'm not here to put a feather in Azruddin's Mohammed cap, right? But we have a constitution, and our constitution needs to be followed. If the constitution says that a leader of the opposition should be named on that day, or you know, within that period, then it should have been done. All right? It should have been done. It was not. Now, on the side of the opposition, okay, there have been a lot of, you know, back and forth, people at each other's throat, right? It's mostly, you know, the Win Party and the PNCR. They're at each other's throat. And look, let's be honest here, guys. We are all adults here. I'm hoping for the most part this year adults is watching the program. And to the extent children are watching, it's a good experience for them, because one thing they're not going to find on Over to You or Straight Up, you're never going to find us using language, right? And attacking people and their families directly. Okay, you're not going to find that here. So feel free to have your children chime in, your teenagers. It would be a good learning opportunity for them. They need to understand the politics in Guyana, because they would soon, you know, be at the age that they can participate and vote. And we're gonna go a little bit in depth into why young Guyanese need to participate in Guyanese politics. We're gonna go a little bit there as we get more into the program. Okay? But sticking with the 13th Parliament. All right. On social media, the social media presenters, and there's quite a few now. We have to start being a little more responsible, man. You know, our behavior these days is becoming very despicable. All right? We need to show a little bit more class when we present to people, have a bit more respect, you know, with how we go about running our programs. Stop cursing at each other and these type of things. Let's cool the tempo down a little bit. It doesn't call for all of that. And don't forget, our actions today determines our tomorrow. You can't be cursing today, but you want to be a keynote speaker speaking to young adults or young high school children in Guyana. That would not be fair to the students. That would not be fair to the parents. And if I was one of the parents, my child was boycotting school that day. My child was not showing up in school to listen to somebody who's been cursing and going on at a rate on social media. So you guys need to clean up your behavior, man, and act like grown men. Okay, you have an issue, call up the person you have an issue with and sort it out, man. Stop this back and forth nonsense. All right? Because, look, as you guys continue to fight and spar with each other, let me tell you what is happening. For every day that you guys spar, 740,000 barrels of oil is being extracted. Okay? How long are you guys going to continue with this ignorance? It's merely a distraction. We are not able to focus on the key issues because you guys are always at each other's throat. And to the Guyanese people, if you find that you're joining social media programs and the presenter is all about himself and he's not addressing issues that are pertinent to Guyanese, he's not showing that innate love for you guys and that innate care for you guys. It's just about me, and what I got and all this kind of nonsense. You guys need to stop tuning into that nonsense. It's not making any sense. It's not doing anything for you. Let's get serious here. This is serious. You guys got to make sure that, again, just like how I encourage everyone to vet their leaders, I encourage you to also vet the people that are presenting to you on social media. They deserve to be vet. Vet them, vet their characters. Look into their history. Because some people have no right presenting to audiences. None at all. Based on their behavior. You have to be able to be objective. Okay? Yes, sometimes your emotions is going to run high. Mine has run high before. But you also have to reel yourself back in and get back in order. Now, I'm going to touch on something here very, very quickly. Look at the way Comrade Norton was treated. And look at the way Azruddin Mohammed is being treated. I'm not talking about treated by the PPP. I'm talking about individuals. I'm talking about social media presenters. It's shameful. It is just shameful. Because what's good for the goose should be good for the gander. What is good for the goose should be good for the gander. I'm not going to come wrong here and mince words. The leader of the opposition has been called ugly, from ugly to this, to that, disrespected to the lowest of levels. This man doesn't have sanctions. This man didn't have no charges at the Guyana Revenue Authority. This man has not been, that man was not accused of smuggling gold. He was never accused of not paying his taxes. How have we become like this? Where evil is trumping that is innately good. It is going to lead to absolutely nothing. evil is going to be detrimental to the Guyanese people. Now, what is happening here essentially? And look, I want you guys to get this clear. This is not targeting anybody. It's general statements I'm making. It's going to lead to people. It is going to lead to people. But it's not me directly trying to target them. Now, based on the sanctions and based on what is going on right now with Azzuddin Mohammed, the entire opposition is being held hostage. You cannot go and work for the people because you got this dark cloud hanging over your head. How could you, in your right senses, go and sit down and have a vote and vote Azzuddin Mohammed as the leader of the entire opposition? You can't in good faith do that because you don't know what the future of Azzuddin Mohammed looks like. And if Azzuddin Mohammed really cared about the Guyanese people, I'll tell you what he would do. I would tell you what he will do. He would pass on that because you want me to be honest with you guys. I'll tell you guys the honest truth. At this current time here, November 8th, 2025, Azzuddin Mohammed does not have the goods that is needed to be leader of an opposition party. He doesn't have the goods on his own. He would have to be guided. He would have to be so guided. We got to start being honest with ourselves, man. Do you guys see at this early infant time in Azzuddin Mohammed political career that he possesses the wherewithal to take the helm as the leader of an entire opposition? He does not, man. He does not. Therefore, he should remove himself from consideration for that position at this point and let the opposition move forward from a holistic perspective. Let them elect a leader and let them move forward because the work of the people has to be done. Remember, we are talking about one man against the masses. Hello? Since when is one man more valuable than the masses? Okay? One man could never be more valuable than the masses. So let's be honest, because what this essentially, guys, to smart people and to thinking people, what this is going to look like, it's going to look like if Azzuddin Mohammed would have used the Guyanese people as a shield. Okay? That's what it's going to look like. I don't want to take the latitude at this moment to say that is what it is. I am not going to do that. Beverly Ann Romaine, excellent point. Excellent point. Irfaan Ali, with his 19 fraud charges, was guided by Bara Jagdeo. But here is my question to you guys. Here, Beverly Ann Romaine, this is a fair question you've asked. It's a fair question you've asked. But here what is my comeback to that question. How long are we going to continue to live in the mediocrity of Guyanese governments? How long? How long? Kieron Brown, I see you. Tell me why it is I'm a big fool. Explain to me why it is that I'm a big fool. All I want you to do is explain it to me. Please don't block Kieran Brown. Give him an opportunity to explain. Explain, Kieran Brown. And explain what you are going to do, Mr. Brown, for the Guyanese people. That 53% of them is living in poverty. Let's hear about your contributions. You see, you guys come on programs and you just say a little nonsense and you go. It shows how dunce you are. You just say it and you just walk. You don't come with anything to support what you're saying. On these programs, you come on and you learn. We deal with intellectuals on these programs. Okay? Anybody's welcome to join the program, but come and contribute something good. You're going to come and you're going to call me a big fool. For speaking the truth? For speaking the truth? I'm going to always speak the truth. I cannot be corrupted. I don't want anybody's money. I'm not interested. Don't call me. If you're calling me, call me to talk about how we can eradicate poverty in Guyana. Call me and let's discuss how our healthcare system can be more beneficial to the people in Guyana. Call me and let's discuss. And let's discuss how we can work to eradicate, you understand me? The transmitting of the HIV virus in Guyana. Let's talk about pertinent things. Chandler Griffith, thank you for answering that, re-answering him. That this was your little time. Now you could go back to worshiping who you're worshiping. I don't worship anybody. Let's talk about things that are affecting our country and essentially our people. Again, every day that we have these distractions is every day 740,000 barrels of our oil. Okay, the patrimony of the Guyanese people is being extracted and taken out. Right? That is what's happening every day. Theodore Adams, good evening to you, sir. We have to stop this. Look, people can come on programs and try to call you all the different things that they want to call you. But let's deal with some facts here. Let's deal with some real facts. The PPP government has been not in compliance in so many ways. Okay? In so many ways. Now, let's take a look at how decisions are made in Guyana. Because look, essentially when you have a lead party in government, right? The PPP cannot make up a government by themselves. It is the PPP and the opposition that comes together to form a government. Let's talk about government being efficient. How can government be efficient when there is only one side that is making all the decisions and they're not including the other side? Look, you don't have to come out and publicly tell the public that, oh, we are sitting and we are talking with the APNU. You don't, or we're sitting and we are talking with WIN. Because look, I'm going to say this. The WIN party has 16 seats. A large demographic of Guyanese would have voted for the WIN party. So you can't talk about opposition discounting the WIN party. All right? Because then you get into a situation where you are failing the citizens that would have voted for WIN. Okay? You are failing the citizens that would have voted for Win. So you can't go down that road. Like I said, if Guyana is going to move forward, it has to be inclusive for all on sundry, everyone. You want everyone to participate in government. My friend Ian Bino is saying Wayne Caesar is right. Mohammed should step aside. He can still give the leadership to someone else in his party until he clears himself. You cannot use, and then people want to come on and call people names. You cannot use an entire country. You cannot hold an entire country ransom for one man. You could never do that. That's not fair. It cannot be fair in any way or form. And then some of you guys come on and you say some of the vilest things on social media. You know what's one of the concerning things about it? And look, I believe in freedom of speech. I believe that people should have a right, to speak and to speak their minds. But when you're going to come on and you're going to use the vilest language, and listen, guys, I've noticed something over my lifespan, that the dogs that has made the most noise, that has barked so loud, those are the ones, man, that when you see them in public, their tails are between their legs. Their tails are between their legs when you see them in public. Kendrick James, Wayne, I am disappointed, Wayne, in you that you too will come and talk about the car. Kendrick, it's not a problem with the car, man. It's a distraction from the people's work. Are you there to show a car, or are you there to do the people's work? This is simple. This is very, very simple, guys. Put this in context. It's very, very, very simple. Are you there to work for the Guyanese people, or is it a car show? What is it? Have we gone to the point where we are starting to worship human beings? Are we getting there? We got to get this thing right. Look, there's so much that would have happened. Ladies and gentlemen, listen to me carefully. Where in Guyana would the Indo-Guyanese population ever allow the lead party in government to be led by an Afro-Guyanese, and the lead party in the opposition to be led by an Afro-Guyanese? Think about it. They would have cried foul all day long. They would have cried foul all day long. But the African Guyanese, they would have give government a chance. That lead party in government is led by an East Indian. The largest party in the opposition is being led by an East Indian. Right? You guys see that? So basically we're saying, hey, anything to see Guyana move forward. Anything to see Guyana move forward. Muhammad Ali comes by, you are biased. You see, when you have people and they don't have the innate ability to think, when they don't have the ability to think, Muhammad Ali, I'm the furthest from bias, my friend. I want to see Guyana, a good Guyana, for Portuguese Guyanese, Chinese Guyanese, African Guyanese, East Indian Guyanese, everybody. Everybody must gain. Is everybody living on that landmass in Guyana. Everybody must gain. All right? Ladies and gentlemen, while we would have sat this past week and we would have dealt with all the distractions, also, not forgetting young Soraya Bourne, okay, was killed in that explosion at that gas station. That is being called a terrorist attack. It is being called a terrorist attack. We have people under arrest. Now, we know how the Guyana police force works. We need to ask the question, are these the correct people? Right? Was this an attack that was fostered by a Venezuela gang? Or could this be something that was done right in Guyana? There's a lot of questions here to ask. There's a lot of questions to be answered. Okay? A lot of questions to be asked. Lots of questions to be answered. But nevertheless, the people who come on the program to course me, their politicians is behind their 12 to 15 foot fences with their African bodyguards with their chests up in the air and their big machine guns in front of them protecting them. While the Guyanese people who are already living in poverty, who's dealing with cost of living and inflation and all these things, have to deal with a young child dying, in a bombing. That bombing was to send a message to somebody. The message was properly sent, but it was sent with a cost. It was sent at a price. What was the price? The price was the life of young Soraya Bourne. Right? And yet many of you want to come out and you want to chorus people up. You want to chorus people up. Now, if Soraya was your daughter, I beg to ask you the question, what would have been your approach? To just accept? To just accept. No. Again, people talking, oh, Wayne, I didn't expect you to talk about the car. Well, while you guys were dealing with that and they had the back and forth going with the opposition, with the Win Party in opposition and the APNU and the social media back and forth and all of these stuff, you know what happened? Lance Corporal Christophe de Nobrega walked free. Okay? I am willing to sit here and I'm willing to call that a miscarriage of justice. Okay? A miscarriage of justice. He just walks free. And a video is posted with him playing with a little child, which I'm thinking is his child. Lance Corporal Christophe de Nobrega. This is Wayne Caesar talking directly to you. You can play with your child. Can Quindon Bacchus do the same with his? Can Quindon Bacchus do the same with his child? Okay? For all of you who like to come on and curse people. How would you deal with that? And you know something, guys? It looks as if the PPP might be playing chess and the opposition playing checkers. Because these guys know the opportune times that they just choose to do these things. What's hot right now on the table? The whole chancellor of the judiciary situation and all of that. Thank you, GT Golden Boy. GT Golden Boy says to me, why did Azudeh Mohammed drive this car without insurance? That's a major infraction for any normal Guyanese. You get in lockup, you definitely doing 72 hours. Driving without insurance. For a matter of fact, you driving a car of that caliber without insurance. The car is getting seized and impounded and you get in lockup. But it shows you how the justice system in Guyana works. Yeah, Shondell Griffith. What a big joke. And Guyanese still can't see the writing on the walls. Yeah. Yeah. We got a lot of work to do, Guyanese. All right? We got a lot of work to do. There's a lot of people that's going to come on there. Look, in this cycle here, people are going to come on and they're going to curse me because the truth, man, when you speak the truth in the world that we live in today, it's a massive issue. All right? The truth must never be heard. All right? We must just live day to day while people just continue to rip us apart. Huh? You guys notice the gentrification that's going on. Well, Theodore Adams is saying, but none of the government of Guyana vehicles got insurance. Well, look, I'm going to say this. I believe that all vehicles should be insured. How can you be driving around in a vehicle that is uninsured? There must be some type of insurance on every vehicle, unless there's a special waiver for government vehicles. And that Lamborghini is not a government vehicle. So it should have had insurance. You see, look, Guyanese, we have gotten accustomed to so much lawlessness, man, that these kind of things we go, oh, so what? But if that Lamborghini would have killed somebody, you know, see an open path and speeding down the open path and somebody come out and was killed, for God forbid, we would have been saying something different. Bonita Montague, thank you and a pleasant good evening to you. Bonita says, the double standard. Some Guyanese sees wrong as right for their selfish gains. Bonita, you could not have been more right, and thank you for that comment. Thank you. We take wrong things and we make it right when there is something in it for us. That's why, again, I'm going to sit here and say to you, vet your social media presenters. Vet them good. Vet them good. All right? Read Bonita's comments and vet them good. All right? Because the Guyanese critic come out and he spoke about people getting paid. Right? Everything he said was not correct. But when he speaks of people getting paid, there are people who are getting paid. And if they ought to go through and do forensic investigations across Guyana and the United States, y'all would see a lot of people in handcuffs. You may even see some of the presenters in handcuffs. Like I say again, man, people ought to be very careful what they're saying. People ought to stop being reckless. what we do here has to be for the benefit and the betterment of Guyana and its people. It cannot be about any presenter. This is about the people. What I do here is for the Guyanese people. I work for the Guyanese people when I come on here on Saturdays. It's about them. Lamborghini is a piece of material. It's a material thing. Let's talk about the children that can't go to school because they can't get a meal. Let's talk about the parents that can't put 4 square meals on the table every day for their children. Let's talk about high inflation. Let's talk about cost of living. Let's talk about the miscarriage of justice all across Guyana. Let's talk about the racism that we're seeing being displayed across Guyana. Let's talk about these things. It's not about anybody's car. I could care less about that. But what I'm trying to say, it was not the time and it was not the place. Right? It was not the time and it was not the place. Mr. Theodore Adams, I want to thank you because Mr. Benchop would have brought it to my attention, but I also went through your page and I saw this situation with the CSEC top performer criteria, you know, and the presidential scholarship consideration. I'm not going to go too long and too far on this. But what I am going to say is that if you know that the score for the Spanish exam would have determined or break a tie, you should have made that known going into these examinations. Now, to do this whole thing right, to make this whole thing right, we should just split the awards. Let it be 2 people. If you can have 1 winner, why you can't have 2 winners? Simple. Simple solution. Both of the children did outstanding. Now what you're going to do, you're going to leave it in the public domain for some people say that, oh, this child deserves it. Or that child deserves it. Make it a non-issue. Make it a non-issue. 1 child took 27 subjects. Hello? Hello? And I think the other took 20. Just based on the amount of subject that the other child take, 7 more. One would think that he's the one that is qualified for it. But I am just saying this. Let's make it easy. We're the fastest growing economy in the world. Any incentives that come along with that, we can double it. Look, I'm going to just give my opinion. And I'm going to let you guys give me your opinions in the comments. I believe, okay, that the President's Award should go to both students. Okay? If there's a trophy given, there should be 2 trophies made. Both students should receive a trophy. It should be a tie. Let's walk away. We have 2 winners this year. If you could have 1 winner, you could have 2 winners. Simple. Very, very simple. All right. Moving forward. Civic says black belly sheep economy. Oh, Civic. Good evening to you, Neville Seatal. Neville Seatal is always omnipresent. You know, like Mark would say, and I too, we don't agree with every single thing that Neville Sital, known as Civic, says. But oh my goodness, what a freedom fighter he is. What a freedom fighter he is. He goes in the trenches and he battles. All right? We're not going to agree with every single thing that he says. But he's a true freedom fighter. You don't see him hopping all over the place. All right? Neville Sital, you know, the omnipresent Neville Sital, he stays in one place and he fights his fight. And his fight, okay, is for all Guyanese to be able to benefit in the nation that they were birthed in or in some way is tied to. Let's skip and go down the East Bank Road and head up the highway to Linden. Theodore Adams and the highlighters. I noticed that there's a lot of open land that is being prepared for housing in Linden and also for industrial projects in Linden. Okay? Linden, Region 10. Let me go holistic. Region 10. Conan and Theodore and Asim and Otto and all of these guys, Jason Benjamin and all of these Linden guys. These guys have been around there for a very long time. And if you're developing Linden, how it is Apostle London not forgetting him? How it is that you're not being inclusive and including these gentlemen? Okay? It's what we're looking at, what we're calling gentrification of communities across Guyana. That is what's happening right now. The backlands on the East Coast is being taken away. Remember those backlands? An extra plot of land is in the back for every plot of land there is up front, for the most part, as far as I know. And I'm begging to ask the question, is it that the PPP is just taking those lands away from people? Because it belongs to the people. The extra plot, I think it's there for farming and these type of things. Right? Is it that the PPP is just taking it away from people? You know, people like to call you biased, they like to call you racist, they like to call you all kind of things. But I'm going to say this. Capital is not being made available to African Guyanese entrepreneurs to go out there and do large-scale development. And why is this? The reason for that, ladies and gentlemen, is that when you go into a bank and you want to borrow a certain amount of money, you have to be able to demonstrate that you own a certain amount of capital. Just to the extent that you would default, there is capital that the bank can capitalize, you understand me, and able to pay off whatever outstanding balance you would have. The bank would take those assets from you essentially and either take ownership of them or sell them in order to recover the monies that you would not have paid to the bank. Under the 23 years that the PPP was in power, mind you, those are the days of the extrajudicial killings, amongst other things. For the most part, the African Guyanese were suppressed. All right? From a business perspective, nothing was happening. Everything was stagnant. For some of the African Guyanese that had, not all, some of them that had large-scale business and flourishing businesses, they were tied into government. Okay? They were tied into government. All right? So, when we talk about making capital available now for young entrepreneurs, yeah, I would like to see capital be made available for young entrepreneurs, especially young entrepreneurs of African Guyanese descent. because that has been a major shortcoming. Sharon Powley, she's basically saying, Wayne, all that is going on in Linden is for the rich. I will say this to the people of Linden and Region 10. You guys need to stand up against this, because here, the community belongs to you guys. And you guys should be able to determine what happens and what does not happen in your community. Okay? Government just should not be able to come in and override you guys. Cheryl Thomas went. You know, Cheryl is touching on Pleasance, all right? A place that I grow. I spent good time in Pleasance in my life. And yes, Cheryl, that's why I made that statement, because that is what I have known it to be in the past. And I just wanted to make sure that those people still had possession of their lands. Cheryl, if you could just shed some light in the comments whether the people do have possessions of those lands in the back, or whether it is that the government would have tried to, is either would have taken it away or is trying to take it away from them. So, back to Capitol. Look, this is a new cycle. This is a new electoral cycle. Okay? It is not going to be easy to get the PPP to be inclusive and to have the opposition be involved or participate in governmental decisions. Right? If you guys would have noticed, there has been no move to renew the Natural Resource Fund. There has been no call thus far on the opposition to present members to be on the Natural Resource Fund. All right? This is where, ladies and gentlemen, you may say, Wayne, you're always harping on this Natural Resource Fund. I'm going to tell you why tonight. I'm going to explain to you. You see what is going on right now? Right now, we're experiencing an oil boom. Okay? Guyana's oil is so important at this present moment to the world market. Okay? Guyana's oil is essential to the world market. Right? Because Russian oil and Venezuela's oil is not saturating the world market like it was prior to the conflicts. All right? So I'm going to say this to you guys. You know, people want to come on program and course and all of that. And these people disappear. When the rubber hits the road, you don't see these people. All right? You don't see these people. And that's mainly because sometimes you have to say because of lack of education. Now, the boom that we're having here with the oil, all right? We have to have competent managers in place to manage this wealth, to manage this revenue, okay? To be able to decipher, to make critical decisions as to how to use the revenues that we are receiving now, ladies and gentlemen, to inject into all our industries. Because we have it going on right now. The revenue is coming in like crazy. So what we have to do, we have to inject it into our industries, all the other industries, and shore them up. Because, ladies and gentlemen, eventually, oil is going to dry up. All right? You don't want what would have happened to other nations after the oil dry up and everything. Those nations were left in pretty compromising positions. You want your nation to be able to have a sustainable economy outside of oil. Right? So at this time, you use the oil revenues that you have to build. And when I say build, I'm not talking about Infrastructure. Infrastructure is something, yes. But we know infrastructure, okay, is a stamping ground for corruption. We know this. All right? And it cannot be just about infrastructure in a nation. It has to be about human capital. Everything starts and ends with human capital. All right? We have had 5 years of oil production. And from a human capital perspective, all the Guyanese people have seen was one, cash distribution. I'm not going to call it cash grant. Ain't no government granting the Guyanese people anything. Whatever the Guyanese people receive from this patrimony is what they deserve. So I am going to call it a cash distribution or a cash disbursement to the people of Guyana, something that they deserve. All right? So, when you do not use the revenue that when you do not manage the revenues that you're making now correctly, like I would have said earlier in the program, your actions today determines your tomorrow. All right? Your actions today determines your tomorrow. Now, 740,000 barrels of oil is extracted a day in Guyana. All right? We bring in enough revenue into this nation that we could have just put aside our own money and build that Demerara Bridge on our own. Kendrick James, what Kendrick is saying, every day people in Guyana without insurance. Know a lot of people driving every day. All right, but Kendrick, Azruddin Mohammed has ascended now to a position now where he is looked at as a leader in Guyana. So what do you think? You think the precedent of driving without insurance should be set by a leader? What precedent do you think a leader should be setting for his people? I await your response. Look, guys, we've got to start thinking here. We have got to get away from this cowboy mentality, man. All right? A Lamborghini is only a car. A Lamborghini is only a car. I am sure that there are many on this program, or a few people on this program, who can afford a Lamborghini. I am sure. I can tell you straight up, I would never buy a Lamborghini. Why? I'm just not the type of person for that type of stuff. That's just not me. I prefer to take my money and share it. Okay? Do things on the ground for children in need. Bag drive, books, you know, money for a parent to send their child to school for the month, bus fares, bicycles, whatever it is. All right? That works better for me. But look, listen, every man to his own order. I'm not criticizing Azruddin Mohammed for buying a Lamborghini. No, I'll never do that. I'll never do that. Every man to his own order. The highlighters, you guys got some work to do in Linden, right? You guys got to look. Anything that happened in Linden should include the Linden people. All right? Linden is like a tourist attraction, man. People want here. Linden is wanted. But here the thing with Linden. They want Linden, but they don't want the people. You understand me? They want Linden. Linden is good to invest in. Right? You got beautiful interland creeks and riverbank and stuff. Tourist attraction. Beautiful. I hop on a skip away from the airport, the national airport. Perfect. Hotels, everything. Put in your beaches, residential areas for the rich. Susan Matthews Rodriguez said it well. And you're right, Susan. And I'm going to repeat what you say here on the program. They don't want black people. It is true. It is not a lie. We need to stop fooling ourselves. We need to stop fooling ourselves. People want you to fool yourself. When you fool yourself, you're good. You're not racist. You're not nothing. When you could look past everything and act like if there's nothing happening. I'm not going to sit here and fool myself. It is obvious that African Guyanese does not have the same access to equities that other ethnic groups have at their disbursement. Hence, you see, look, Nigel User did that thing, that presentation that he had done, where it shows you the disparity in ownership of large businesses. I think, yes, it was an Ipadagy presentation. And he took some lashes to that. Barry Jagdeo was upset. He didn't believe that those statistics should have been made public. Because we can see the truth from those statistics. Somewhere about 90%, 92% of the large businesses of the large businesses were owned by Guyanese of East Indian descent. No. You see, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Now, if I should come and say, this is our program here. If I should say on our program, all right, African Guyanese, you guys are some of the largest consumers in Guyana. We in the diaspora is going to help you guys to grow some businesses down in Guyana. You guys have to be honest here, so that you guys can start supporting yourself and not be dependent on others. You can start being self-sufficient. Jagdeo and them would bawl in their sleep. They would bawl in their sleep. The vendors in the market would see hell to get their greens sold. If we start telling the people of Pleasance and them, hey, you guys need to do self-help, get down in the back dam and start planting. Y'all need to stop buying greens. Y'all need to start having bottom house party and village party, and y'all need to stop going Palm Court and Pegasus and all these places. If I would come out and say that to our people, how are you guys going to feel? But you use them. You use them and then you don't want to include them. I am not. I'm telling you guys this. Myself, and I think I could say this to Mark too. We are not going to sit on this platform and fight bias with bias. We are not going to sit here and fight course with course. We're going to sit here, and brothers and sisters, not just us, but all of us here, we're going to sit here and I'm going to say this. Let's fight bias with brilliance, because that's what we are. Brilliant. All right? We are brilliant. You cannot trick us. You cannot outsmart us. We understand what is happening. We totally understand what is happening here. Erin Kirton. Thank you. Thank you, Erin. Erin is saying to me, Wayne, those were the type of parties we enjoy. Well, Erin, I want to tell you something. I could not have agreed with you more. You know why? When you went to that party and we catch up 2 weeks down the road, right, Erin? We talking about how fun and how nice that party was. But in this time, when you go to a club and we catch up 2 weeks ago, we talking about how somebody get gunned down, one of we friend get gunned down or something, and we went to funeral. We reach up in we're all sad. We are all sad in today's cowboy Guyana. Police officer shot down by businessman. Young Soraya born, bombed down, killed. And people want us to sit down and act like if, oh my God, Guyana is so beautiful, there's nothing happening. Oh, it's wonderful. We are here and we are sticking to the truth, nothing but the truth. I believe that if this current government continues to posture the way that they are posturing, they are not inclusive, and I'm going to say this, they are being supported by external forces, and those external forces know themselves. Like I said, I don't come here to give people feather in the cap or come here to criticize anybody directly. But I'm going to say this. Why it is that the Azruddin Mohammed sanction case is moving along so expeditiously, but we are not hearing anything about the May Thomas, you understand me, corruption case, and those other men, including that policeman corruption case. How are we not hearing about these things? Look, we cannot be convenient. People are not dunce. People are not dunce here. If we're going to handle corruption and we're going to handle all these things and we're going to handle extradition and all of these kind of things, then let's extradite everybody and let's get the cases rolling. Let's put all of them in one basket alike and extradite them. Let's also seek to find out how many bank accounts does Bara Jagdeo have in communist China and how much money those bank accounts contain. Maybe that's a good reason why we're having a shortage in the US dollar in Guyana. We need to look at everybody. What are we going to do? Are we going to bypass the extrajudicial killings of the 90s and the early 2000s? Is that just being thrown under the rug and forgotten about? What about those mothers who were bawling and screaming over those graves and those coffins and caskets? What about them? But yet you come on programs to chorus people. What about them? It's not about them. You need to live a good life, you and your family. Well, you better pray to God that it doesn't hit home for you. Okay? You that take those selfish positions, you better hope that it doesn't hit home for you. When we do things, we shouldn't do it conveniently. We should not do it conveniently. All right. Justice in Guyana needs to be justice for all. Look, Devin Sears just walked out of jail maybe a day or two ago. $400,000 bail. His bail was more than Azruddin Mohammed and his father combined by $100,000. You guys want to call that fair justice? That businessman that shoot that policeman, he's on bail. And the charge is manslaughter. But I'm saying this again. The DPP and them, they need to look into this one. Okay? That charge needs to be upgraded to premeditated murder. That is the charge there. If the shoes was on the other feet, it wouldn't have been up for discussion. It would have already been done. All right? Again, Lance Corporal Christophe de Nobrega would have walked out of the courts a free man this week. Quinn Numbako's mother and father, they would not have received any compensation yet from the government. The Linden martyrs have not received compensation after all these years. I believe that the parents of young Peters and Mr. Forgenet, his family, they should be compensated. I believe the same for the family of Adriana Young and Soraya Bourne. Not that it can bring back their loved ones, but it must be done. These are cases for lawyers in the opposition to take a look at. I know everybody loves to take the high-profile cases and the cases that brings about money and all of that stuff. But sometimes you must pick up cases because it is within your moral issue. It's within your morals, within your moral compass to pick up those cases. Because you know that essentially you're doing something that is innately right. All right? The miscarriage of justice continues in the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. All right? The PPP continues to operate as normal, as a dictatorship. Yes, that's what it's showing itself. That's what it's posing as. A dictatorship. Working within the framework, within the democratic framework. When they go to parliament, it's just to pretend. It's not to hear anything that the opposition has to say. It's to just make their decisions. Hey, we are going to the Natural Resource Fund. We need this amount of money. We have the votes, and now it's 36 seats they got. So they def 36 to 29. That's a massive difference. Right? They're going to just go and vote and just take the people's money and do whatever they want to do with it. I want to say this to the average, normal, walking Guyanese. You need to get involved in your politics. As an adult, you need to be responsible. You think just going and work and making the money and sending your children to school and minding your children and doing the necessaries as a parent is enough. It is not enough, because your child is going to grow into an adult. Your child is going to enter into the workforce one day. All right? And the amount of outstanding debt that Guyana is going to be in if we continue on this trajectory is going to be very, very difficult for your child. That means your child is going to be taxed heavier. More money is going to be needed to pay back loans, amongst other things. So these are things you need to think about. Like I said before, what you do today is going to determine your tomorrow. We have to be conscious. I know the 12 from the APNU has been out there. They have been out in the highways and the byways. They have been working. I said it before and I'm going to say it again. You need more than 12. All right? And you need to visit communities often, very, very often. Because education, when you're doing this type of education, people don't just pick up things in one day. You have to be consistent. You have to be consistent. And to the WIN party, look, I'm not going to leave out the WIN party. They have 16 seats. There's a large demographic there. You have to get out. You got to hit the people on the ground. You have to fulfill your promises. You would have made promises to these people. Hence the reason you have 16 seats. Those promises needs to be fulfilled. All right? They need to be fulfilled. Right? As we go forward, you have a critical role to play as a party. A critical role to play. And how you and the APNU are able to work together is going to determine a lot for the Guyanese people. All right? And to the extent you guys are going to be working together. Oh, Susan Matthews Rodriguez, she's saying promises win, made promises just for a vote. Well, Susan, I see your point. And you know what I'm going to say to your point? Time will tell. Time will tell. Right now, though, Susan Point is holding. Susan Point is holding because right now everything is on stall to see what's going to happen with Azzuddin Mohammed. While I believe that Azzuddin Mohammed should allow somebody else to ascend to contest for that leadership, and he should take a back seat. And I say this, not just for that purpose, but I believe that he needs to learn a little before he can take the helm of any leadership in Guyana. And that is whether the people, because it's going to be we the people, the Guyanese people, who is going to determine who the leader is. All right? And look, Guyanese are not stupid at all, you know. Though Barry Jagdeo believe they're stupid, the people are of the opinion that PPP took 36 seats. They took 36 seats and they gave 16 seats to WIN, and they gave 12 seats to APNU, and they gave 1 seat to Forward Guyana. Right? That's the opinion that the people are of right now. So we're going to see what's going to happen over the next few weeks if we continue to posture in this way, whereby everything is on hold for one man, or if that man will think about the poor people that would have voted for him and say, hey, you need to move forward. Let me handle my business. Because the sanctions is not the business of the Guyanese people. That is Azzuddin Mohammed and his father personal business. And they should keep that on a personal level and allow the work of the people to move forward. That is my take on that. Okay? I'm not going to say that Azruddin Mohammed should not sit in parliament because we have a constitution, and the constitution did not say that Azruddin Mohammed cannot sit in parliament. So if the constitution did not say that, I will not give myself the latitude of saying that. Okay? And everyone is innocent until proven guilty. But while I say that, while I say this, I want to ask Anil Nandalal, have we made any progress with solving the execution murder of Ricardo Fagundes, also known as Paper Shorts? And this is a direct one to you, Mr. Anil Nandalal. Is there an update on the extrajudicial execution murder of my brother and our brother, Courtney Crum Ewing? Can anybody shed any light on that? And I want to make a plea to the international community. You understand me? You guys have so much to do in Guyana. Why don't you all do some inquiries into those extrajudicial killings from the 1990s and the 2000s? You know, sometimes you guys sit there and you guys want to know why it is that people are so angry with the PPPC government. Well, they're angry because Bara Jagdeo, the man who many of you go into conference rooms and make deals with, that was the man who was sitting at the helm of president when all these atrocities would have occurred. The Bacchus brother, the former agriculture minister Saturday Osol, the brother Ronald Waddle, and all of these guys were all shot down and executed in cold-blooded. The PPP over those years would have equipped certain businessmen that at night those businessmen became killers. They went out there and they executed Guyanese. They executed young black men. That's what they did. Every time I caught something on YouTube for Guyana, it's always a mother screaming over a coffin or a casket. Yes, Bara Jagdeo, that is your history. So when you guys want to go ahead and name bridge and all of these things after people, you understand me? You must first measure their character. And you saying Bara Jagdeo would have come out this week and talk about national security is at risk. Why is national security at risk? Because you guys have something up your sleeve? Let me say this to you. Whatever happens in the dark must come to light. You guys created all of these security paramilitary companies for a reason. And that reason was to keep voices of dissent in Guyana hushed and muzzled. Sheriff and all of these different security companies that you guys would have created. You are wicked to your own citizens, to your own taxpayers. They can't speak in their own country because they speak risking their lives. They can be shot down in their own nation. Well, if a policeman could have been shot down in broad daylight, who can't be shot down? And then you decided to take a shot at Clifton Hicken about the Mohammed car without insurance. And I could see why you're doing that. Because there's photos with Mohammed and Hicken hug up and all these guys in bed. And for you, Clifton Hicken, it served you right. It served you right. You have forgotten the people of Guyana who you and your force should be serving. And you're doing the bidding of the PPP. That's what you're doing. But I'm going to say this. There is going to become a day that the Guyanese people are going to respond. And when they respond, ain't nobody gonna shoot them down because they got investment in Guyana. Guyana belongs to the people of Guyana. It belongs to the people of Guyana. All right? And this criminal government that you guys would have put in place to manage the business of the people of Guyana and ignore the people of Guyana, when they respond, you ought to respect them. This is about 740,000 barrels of oil being pulled out the ground. That could never be worth more than Guyanese lives. Okay? That can never be worth more than a comfortable life, a comfortable life for Guyanese. Okay? It cannot be worth that. Guyanese must have a comfortable life in their own country. They must. Right? They must have a comfortable life in their own country. And I say this to the opposition. I say this to the opposition. Both APNU and WIN. Y'all need to come together and Forward Guyana. Forward Guyana have one seat. But I guarantee if an election is supposed to spin and come right around, Forward Guyana will have more than one seat. They've conducted themselves well enough to garner the attention of the Guyanese people. They have focused themselves on policy. And that's what we need. We need to focus on policy. We don't need to focus on who is going to be the opposition leader. WIN, APNU, Forward Guyana, they need those 29 seats. They need to get in to Parliament. They need to work on one accord. They need to become greedy. When I say greedy, you have 29 seats. Find out how much time on NCN you have and take your time. Take the PPP to court for your time. This is how you bring about change. You have to bell the cat. You have to start holding people accountable. You have to come out. You have to say, look, the Natural Resource Fund cannot function. No money can be borrowed from the Natural Resource Fund until the opposition has a presence on the Natural Resource Fund board. Susan Matthews Rodriguez. That's why I love Ibrahim of Burkina Faso. Yes, it is not just you. It is not just you. There are many who love and look up to that young man. Okay? And there are many that also hates him because they can't have their way in his nation the way they used to. Annette Bissessar Robinson, Jagdeo own Guyana. That's what he thinks. I'm going to answer that right here. Guyana belongs to the people of Guyana. Guyana does not have kings. Guyana does not want kings. Okay? Guyana may have some individuals trying to push themselves towards the status of dictator. But the people, I am pretty sure, will not allow that. And to the African Guyanese, I say this: do not allow any more latitude to anyone. You have given it to them. Okay? The lead party in government have an East Indian leader. Okay? The opposition, the largest party in the opposition, has an East Indian leader. There is nothing more that you can give unless they want you to strip naked and give them your clothes also. There is nothing more that you can give. Right? Look, ladies and gentlemen, these issues run deep. These issues run deep. And if I am to get into all of them, if I'm to get into these issues as deep as I would like to, I'm telling you, man, people will call you all kind of names. When you speak the facts, people call you all type of names. It's all about getting ahead, ladies and gentlemen. There is no more morals. There's no more humanity. There is money and the need for money and the wants for money. That is all it is. Money, money, money. Okay? People, a lot of them, they don't believe in the Almighty. They believe in the almighty dollar. All right? And that's one of our downfalls. We believe in that dollar. And you know what? We keep chasing that dollar, forgetting our morals, forgetting our moral responsibilities as adults, which should be your family. Guyanese on the ground, if you're watching this program, I encourage you tomorrow to sit as a family for breakfast in the morning and to have discussions, man. If there's one day that you do it, make it Saturday or Sunday. And if there are days during the week that you can do it for a quick half an hour, whatever it is, do it. It is going to be very edifying to your children and grandchildren. Okay? It's going to build them strong on moral values. There is nothing, I'm going to say this again. There is nothing like an educated young woman and young man. Nothing. Listen, when you're educated and you have degrees, no one can take that away from you. That stays with you until you're no longer. It becomes a part of you. That is why it is essential in your young age to make sure that you take your education. That's why it's important to a nation to make sure that it has a good, functioning education system. It is critical to the young life. It is critical to building a strong foundation. All right? University, yes, Neville, Sital. University was, taken away from Guyanese under the PPP. Taken away. Taken away. But I hope that the young Guyanese and the middle-aged Guyanese, if you would have missed it the first time through, try and go back. It's not too late. It's not too late. You're in your 30s, mid-30s, late 30s. It's not too late to go to university. It is not. Don't call yourself old. Don't do that to yourself. Go and get your education. All right? Go and get your education. It is important. It is imperative. Annette, education is the key to success while you're young. Yes, Annette, the brain is young. The brain is like a sponge. It is receptive to everything. Okay? It is not, don't listen. And Guyanese have gotten into this thing. I want you guys to get out of it. I'm not telling you guys that your children should not play video games. They should not be on their cell phone. They should not be on their tablet. Okay? Because what's the saying? All work and no play makes Jack a very dull boy or Jill a very dull girl. Okay? So there must be recreational time. I totally agree with that. But at the same time, do not have your children on these gadgets 24 hours. Because like I said, the brain is young and receptive. And you have to make sure while the brain is young and receptive that you are feeding it the correct stuff. All right? You got to make sure that you're feeding the brain correctly. Because obviously where you feed the brain today is going to determine what the brain executes tomorrow. All right? Don't have your children playing video games 24/7. Look, I haven't gotten any information as to when is Soraya born funeral as yet. I don't know if that is out as yet. But I still just want to send out condolences to that family. You know, and this has got to be a very tough time for them. A very, very, very tough time. And to all the members of the community and their family and extended family that is giving them support, I say, you know, it's a good thing. And thank you for supporting them. I saw the APNU 12 were out there when they had a little candlelight vigil there for the young angel. You know, it's too often, brothers and sisters, that we see these type of things. Too often we just had and I'm going to call it a mystery of Adriana Young. We all know that she was murdered, but I'm going to call it a mystery because like nobody knows nothing. Nobody. Look, I've gotten away now of saying, oh, when I see these tragedies, I say this too shall pass, because this is all that happens. These tragedies happen, they pass, nobody's held accountable, nothing comes out of the story, you know. It just disappears. Look, they had a big story out with a cricketer and sexual harassment, and that thing, you guys notice how that thing disappeared? No, I'm not out here to call out anybody, but I'm just showing you how these things disappear. And there's one other thing I want to point out that I see quite a few times. You see what is happening with the Chancellor of the Judiciary? You know what's going to happen? She's going to walk away into the sunset. And mind you, I love Yannette Cummins. I think she's an outstanding individual. But what's going to happen here is that she's going to walk away quietly, guys. Nothing is going to be said about why this would have occurred. Why is it that she's being sent on early retirement? You understand me? There's not going to be any details or any answer to that. It's going to just happen. She's never going to come out and defend herself. I'm talking about what I've seen before. I've seen this trend before in Guyana. Okay? That is exactly what's going to happen. Do you guys remember the issue of the art teacher, Mr. Ivor Tom and Charles Ramson? When all social media, everyone on social media came out to Mr. Tom's defense. Well, I've never seen a public statement from Mr. Tom thanking social media, thanking the people of Guyana for coming to his defense. You understand me? These are the type of things that I talk about, man. These are the type look, there is no unity in Guyana. There's no unity. Everybody just sits and wait for the moment that the abuse come their way. Nobody's belling the cat and saying, well, look, we have to address this now so that it wouldn't happen again. So what would have happened to Yannette Cummins? What would have happened to Ivor Tom is going to happen again because it was never addressed correctly. It was never addressed. So we just keep going through the cycles over and over and over again, the same thing. All right? I've had a whole electoral cycle now, a whole 5 years. I have seen the trends. And the trends are disturbing. So I hope that we see more of a backbone from the opposition. All right? The trends that I've seen in the last cycle painted a picture of why the PPP were able to sit in power for 23 years. Those trends must not stand true today. You must not allow it. You must not allow it. All right? I don't know what's going to happen with our judiciary now, with Yannette Cummins being out of the frame. It leaves Roxanne George as Chancellor of the Judiciary and Navindra Singh as Chief Justice. Okay? They are going to be biased 1,000,000% favorable to the PPPC. All right? So they have Chancellor of the Judiciary, Chief Justice, DPP, Police Commissioner. What else do they have, guys? Help me in the comments. GCOM, controlled by the PPP. What else? They have everything. I'm sure they're in the banking system, right? Because the banking system needs a lot of oversight right now. So I'm sure that, they're in the banking system. What else? Everything they're controlling. Every single thing is being controlled by the PPP. And there's absolutely no checks and balances. So, to Dr. Terence Campbell, I'm going to say this to you and your fabulous 12. You guys make up the fabulous 12. And to the Win Party and their 16. And the Honorable Amanzo Walton this year and her one seat with the Forward Guyana Movement. You guys are going to have to do a little bit more than writing letters to the PPPC. Because writing letters is not going to do the job. All right? You guys remember former leader of the opposition, Joseph Harmon. He used to write letters like if letters were out of style. And Irfaan Ali just ignored them and put them in the garbage can next to him in office of the president, at the office of the president there. All right? We have to get more serious. All right? And one of the first things on the agenda should be a new voters list and biometrics. Again, I'm saying this. I may sound repetitive. You cannot essentially build a party without a new voters list and biometrics being a part of that build out. Because you can build when and build the APNU how much you want and Forward Guyana how much you want to build it. If the list remains the same, you're not winning an election in Guyana. You are not winning an election in Guyana. The PPPC didn't work that list in Guyana. That list was sent outside of Guyana to be worked on by real experts. You're not winning an election in Guyana. I'm going to say it again. You're not winning. I don't care how much of a mathematical chance you think you have. You are not winning. That list is built so that the PPPC will always be able to navigate it and come out on top of any election. So that's one of the things that you need to address. That should be at the top of your list. All right. Barry Jagdeo was complaining about the Venezuelans also in Guyana. You're the ones that let the Venezuelans into Guyana. You are the ones that would have let the Venezuelans into Guyana. Do not complain. Yes, Venezuela may have had an issue going on in the country, but you should have vetted the people. You should have had a holding space for those people. Develop something. Okay? Like when people come across the border in the United States, they go into a holding facility until they can be properly processed. Look, soon Guyana will have to stop calling itself a third world country. Right now, it still is. Because our facilities are not up to standard yet. Right? Especially our health facilities. We have buildings that say it's a hospital, but it's not equipped like an hospital. I know you guys didn't forget the young lady that died the other day, the 22-year-old that would have died because of lack of oxygen. You know, that's sad. That is so sad. But back to the Venezuelans. All right? The Venezuelans need to be vetted properly. All right? You need to have proper history on these people. The people just walk into the country and integrated themselves among Guyanese. Many of them, a lot of Venezuelans would have been murdered each other, and some of them even troubled Guyanese. All right? I'm not saying that some of those people are not in Guyana for a better life. But how better that life is going to be under this government, only God knows, and time will tell. All right? Ladies and gentlemen, we are approaching the hour of 9 p.m. here, Eastern Standard Time, in the northeast of the United States of America, and I'm sure that we are approaching 10 o'clock in Guyana and many are tired. I want to thank you guys so much for joining tonight's program. I hope that our discussion was edifying. I do look forward to seeing all of you here again next Saturday as we continue our interactions. Bring your comments. Bring your comments, and let's have these interactions. They are pertinent. They are needed. Okay? We need to change the trajectory of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. Our fabric is being ripped to shreds by an incompetent PPPC government, a government that is unwilling to be inclusive. All right? We need an inclusive government in Guyana. We don't need an exclusive government. We need an inclusive one. We don't need a dictatorship. We need to see democracy. All right? We need to see justice for all in our nation. To all Guyanese using the highways and the byways, please do not just drive for yourself. Drive for yourself, other motorists, and more so the pedestrians. Ladies and gentlemen, until next Saturday, love you, love you, love you. Take care of yourselves. Over to you. Good night.
I can't take it no more. I can't take it no more. Can't take it no more. Imagine 18 hours of blackout and you're telling people progress. Cost of living gone up 100%, yet you give public servant less. Mr. President, listen to the people. Search your soul and you will confess. I want you try surviving on the public base, then you're gonna know but stress. Cause I done fed up, you done fed up, he done fed up, she done fed up, we done fed up, the people fed up. You're hiding corruption inside the cup, look how evil set up.
At Big Bird Transportation Service, we specialize in safe, fast, and dependable delivery transportation for businesses and individuals. Whether you're sending a small package across town or need scheduled deliveries for your company, we're here to make sure your items arrive on time, every time. Our team is committed to providing efficient logistics solutions with a personal touch. With a fleet of well-maintained vehicles and experienced drivers, we handle every delivery with care, from pickup to drop-off. Why choose Big Bird? On-demand and scheduled deliveries. Local and regional coverage. Secure and professional handling. Customer-first service. Call us today at 929-329-9938 and let Big Bird take your deliveries to the next level.